Hello, hello, hello. Sarah here. Welcome back to another episode of You're Fucking Welcome. I was about to say happy Monday, but you'll be listening to this on Tuesday. I'm recording it on a Monday, and it very much feels like a Monday over here. Transparently, I'm exhausted. It has been a busy and hectic and chaotic couple of weeks between traveling and sparing you the details, I had some travel issues with my dog, and then my dog wound up sick yesterday. And so it's just been one of those periods of time where I feel like I can't catch a break. And that's very dramatic because they're not real problems, but like it's just been like one thing after another, right? And when I was thinking about that, when I was struggling with that, if you will, like last night I was trying to decide like what my week was going to look like, because yesterday being in the emergency vet, especially all day long, it kind of threw my week for a loop. It kind of threw my plans that I had off a cliff. And I was like just agonizing over it last night rather, where like, okay, like what am I going to do for this week? And how am I going to change all the things that I had planned, blah, blah, blah. And I intentionally, because I know better at this point, I intentionally really asked myself the questions that I've told you to ask yourself. What's the most loving thing to do for myself? What would I do if I had $1 billion in my bank account? Like I was really sitting with like this thought that I could either kind of roll with the struggle or roll with the stress or roll with the exhaustion and just accept it, right? And basically burn myself out even more. Or I could lean into, again, those two questions, right? Like, what is the most loving thing to do for myself right now? And what would I do this week if I had $1 billion in my bank account? And again, I always think that second question specifically is such a clarifying question, because instantly you get your answer, right? It's very clear if you would be doing the things that you're about to do, right? If you had $1 billion in your bank account, the yes or no becomes very clear. I was sitting there telling myself I wanted to launch this new program. I thought I was going to have time to get it all ready yesterday, put the finishing touches on it yesterday, and I didn't. And so now, like when I asked myself that question, there's no way in a million years, if I had $1 billion in my bank account, I would be forcing or pushing myself to launch something when, again, I'm exhausted and I feel like I need a break. And again, like doing it in this more chaotic, rushed manner than I want to, right? And so again, that answer became very clear to me. And so what I am doing, and what I have done many times before, is giving myself a wealth week. And so because I feel like it's something that I need, and it's something that you probably need as well, it felt like the perfect thing to talk about today, because it's something, if you've been, my client, or I've talked about it in some programs, what Wealth Week is to me, but it's something I definitely have suggested for many of my clients, and again, the people that I've spoken to, because it is something that I think that so often we don't allow ourselves to have. And so the quick backstory on this is, and again, as many of you know, my business for years operated around basically selling every day, right? Every single day we had something for sale. Every single day we were marketing that thing, and then we just led into the next launch. And again, you know this if you've been listening to my stuff, but I use the word launch, but for the most part, it doesn't feel like launching all the time, because whereas like when I think of the term launch, that's when a lot of people, right, they're kind of just like gearing up for this big thing, all hands on deck. There's pressure on it. It's this huge effort, right? Whereas yes, we were launching all the time, but it didn't feel as much pressure. It didn't feel as much stress, because it just felt like selling all the time. And so again, like nothing was that big of a deal. It was just kind of like, okay, here's what we do every single day, right? It felt like a lot less pressure for that reason. But as I was on that, I don't want to say hamster wheel, because 90% of the time it didn't feel like a hamster wheel. It just felt like the things that we did every single day. But as we were on that cycle for a really long time, it almost became this thing where it was harder and harder to give myself permission to take a week off of doing that, to take a week off of selling something, right? Because it just felt like momentum. It just felt like these are the things that we do to make money, and we're going and we're going and we're going. And oh God, like I could not sell something this week, but oh man, like, but I could make money and I could do this. And so why wouldn't I do that? It was this constant, vibe of pushing myself to do it because I could do it. And it was a difficult thing for me back then to give myself permission to be like, it's okay to slow down for a week, especially because like I didn't understand that so often slowing down allows you to speed up essentially, right? And so this was like I want to say like a year and a half ago. I remember it was like October of, I guess, 2019. And I was like really craving a week off. I was really craving some rest, right? Some time to like not necessarily sell or not necessarily market myself that week. But again, I was having a really hard time rationalizing that. And also it felt hard to rationalize at that given moment, a week off, a vacation, because there were so many things that I wanted to do. I wanted to get so many things organized and planned and brainstormed on the back end, right? That I knew I wasn't in a phase where I just wanted off completely. I just needed a moment where I wasn't so like prioritizing my marketing and my selling and all of that kind of stuff. And so kind of as a means to trick myself almost, I was like, you know what? This is going to be a week where we are focused on, again, the slowing down to speed up, the getting reorganized, the working on the back end, the planning out the future. And if you know me, that I love some good alliteration. And so I was like, oh, this is like a week to work on my wealth, like wealth week. Oh, there we go. And it felt like I was like giving myself this gift of like being off, but not really. And not like I don't just deserve a week off, but like I said, there were things that I wanted to do on the back end. And so again, wealth week was born. And I was like, this is a week where we are really intentionally, taking our foot off the gas in terms of making money and, just the grind, right? Like, I don't know. I feel like I personally don't have a negative, relationship with the word hustle. I know a lot of people do, and I think that it's a word that, it means what it means to you. And I don't think that it's like, if you like it or if you don't, I don't think you're right or you're wrong. Like, I look at the word hustle, like I kind of compare it to like just being driven, just being hungry. Like I look at somebody like J-Lo. Like J-Lo is always the person who pops into my head when I think about hustle, right? I'm not sitting there saying to burn yourself out and exhaust yourself and to do things unintentionally, but I am somebody I'm pro being, again, hungry and driven for all that there is to accomplish, because I think it's so cool to look at this world and to look at all of the things that we're able to do thanks to technology, right? Like whether it's physical products or, investing in this type of company, there are so many cool things to do that like that's what I look at. Like that's what I think of when I think of the word hustle. It just means kind of going after everything that you want. Whereas I know that sometimes, again, when you're doing that and doing that day in and day out, the hustle that started out positively, it kind of turns into this hamster wheel kind of vibe, right? And so again, it just felt like this moment for me where I was like, okay, this is a moment to regroup, to reassess, to kind of like clean up things on the back end, whether that means, deleting old web pages on my site. Like my sister will do that during Wealth Week, where like we're just like kind of like cleaning up the messiness where there is messiness and kind of getting reoriented and regrouping for what it is that we ultimately want the business and the company to look like. And again, it feels like this thing for me where, again, I love the wealth piece of it because again, it's easier for me to rationalize, and not that I have to rationalize it, but it's easier for me to get my brain wrapped around it when I am sitting there and like aligning it back to the concept of Wealth Week. It feels like, okay, these things that I'm doing then, the things that I'm going to put on my to-do list for the week, if you will, they are things that are clearly guiding me to this next level version of my life and wealth and business and all of these things that I really, really, really want. And so again, yes, it might feel like slowing down a little bit, but it's all with the intention to get me where I want to go, the big picture, the big vision that I'm after, all of the things that I'm hungry for in this world, right? It's this week to, again, get reoriented and allow that for myself. And if you're somebody who, I don't know, maybe you have a healthier relationship with working, right? This might not align as much with you. Whereas I know for so many of my clients, so many of the people that I have spoken to over the years, they have such a hard time giving themselves permission to take off. They have such a hard time giving themselves permission to not check the phone over the weekend or the email over the weekend. And they feel like they have to always be on and they have to go, go, go. And, we've got to hold all of these balls in the air. We've got to make sure that we're spinning the plates because otherwise everything's going to fall and break if we stop, if we take our foot off the gas for one moment. And trust me, there is nobody that understands that more than I do. Like I really, 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 I understand what it feels like to fear so deeply the thought of, again, slowing down. But I learn over and over again, right, that it's required in order to be who you want to be, right? But also to get where you want to go. Because I've said it a million times, but if you are burnt out, if you are exhausted, if you are running on fumes, if you are doing things in this autopilot, like way where you're not embodying the thing that you're doing, you're not being who you want to be, you're just doing the things because they're on your to-do list and you're checking off the boxes. It's when you're going to see the momentum in your business start to dwindle a little bit, right? It feels like that buzz, that energy, that magic it loses its magic essentially. Like it loses its sparkle and it starts to just feel very dull and again, very hamster wheel like. Whereas again, taking a moment to refresh, to get re-excited about your content. You posting on Instagram because you fucking want to, you have this idea you want to share with the world is very different than posting on Instagram because you have to today. Okay, because it's one of the things that I have to do. And I think for all of us, we can all agree that yes, we started our businesses to make money and all of that, right? All of the financial stuff and the success stuff that comes with being an entrepreneur, sure. But I think we all can agree, like we started our businesses because we want to do something. We want to say something. We want to share something. We feel passionately about the things that we're saying and the things that we're sharing. And Wealth Week allows me personally to get re-anchored in that and for me to get re-excited about where I'm going and what I'm doing and how I'm doing it rather than again allowing the hamster wheel to kind of go and go and go, because I know from experience the longer I allow it to go, it never gets better. It never gets better. It just gets duller and duller and duller until I kind of like reach my breaking point. And I feel like I personally am at a place in my life where this sounds cheesy, but like I love myself enough to give myself that slowing down much more easily than I used to, right? Whereas like I used to have to kind of like force myself or convince myself, or again, how it was born, tricking myself into believing that it was okay to slow down. And now I see much more clearly how important it is for me, how much I deserve that, how worthy I am of that, and also what it does for me. The results that I'm striving for actually come to me that much more easily when I give myself the thing that I'm craving anyway. So why the fuck not do it, right? And so all of that to say, I am having a wealth week this week. After I finish recording this, I'm going to get a little bit more clear on what that means for me. But just as a kind of example, things that I'm doing this week, I want to kind of revisit my overall messaging, my overall programs, my overall packaging. I just want to revisit it and kind of tidy it up a little bit. I want to tidy up some of our business systems, what gets done when, a podcast is recorded, things like that. I want to map out what the next 3 months look like in terms of what we're selling and what we're offering and when things are recorded. I have to touch base with some of my contractors, my publicist, my Pinterest person, like some of the things that have kind of gotten away from me. I want to kind of just have some conversations and make sure that we're all on the right path and direction with that. I'm working on some physical products, which is really exciting. We've got a bunch of interviews lined up for my podcast as well as me being on others. And so I want to just sit with like making sure that I'm clear on what I'm talking about with them and on their shows and my show, like all of those kind of things. And so those to me, in my experience, those are the kind of things that so often get added to the end of the to-do list. And then it's like, they're things I want to do, but then I'm so tired by the end of the day that I'm like, okay, I'll do it tomorrow. And it just kind of gets buried and buried and buried. And so again, this is a week where I want to do them and do them well and do them being the person that I want to be, right? Like I've just noticed myself lately more and more, sorry for the delay, like as I'm responding to everybody. And that's not who I want to be. Like, it doesn't feel good to me to be that person. And so I just, again, like, this is a week where I'm like, okay, getting caught up and like really kind of going through with a fine tooth comb. Here's what's not feeling good right now. And here's the solution for that. And here's maybe who we need to hire. And here's like the ways in which we have to shift X, Y, Z. It just, again, feels so good to be able to regroup in that way. And I'll say it again, I know that it's getting me closer to the bigger vision. I know that slowing down is going to speed me up. And I know for sure that it will be the same thing for you if you give yourself that gift, right? And so I just want to encourage you, whether it's this week or next year, whatever, give yourself that wealth week and know that, as hard and as like just busy and chaotic as entrepreneurship can feel so often, I want you to remember why you're doing this, and you don't have to, again, continue the cycle. You don't have to stay on the hamster wheel. You can regroup, and I'll say it for the 50th time. You can slow down, and that will allow you to speed up. I promise you that. And so again, give yourself that, and I'll talk to you in the next episode. Bye.